I thought I was just visiting my family for the weekend. Instead, I found out they'd been hiding a deal that involved money, property, and someone who wanted me gone. What came next wasn't about family, it was about survival. I hadn't been back to my hometown in almost 6 years. Not since my grandfather's funeral. We were never exactly a close-knit family, and distance didn't hurt that. So when my sister messaged me out of nowhere and said, "You should come home this weekend. Dad's asking about you," I assumed someone was sick. Or dead. That's usually how these things go. I didn't ask questions. Just booked a rental, took the Friday off, and drove the 3.5 hours back. First thing I noticed when I pulled into town, the hardware store was gone. Used to be family-owned, run by my dad and uncle. Now it was boarded up with a "Coming Soon, Coffee and Company" sign spray-painted across the plywood. I didn't recognize the neighborhood anymore either. New construction everywhere, but not the nice kind, just fast builds stacked too close together. Then I got to our house. Except it wasn't ours. Same address. Same lot. But everything was different. The siding was new. The porch had been redone. Different mailbox. And there was a silver SUV parked in the driveway with out-of-state plates. At first, I thought maybe my sister had sent the wrong address. So I called her. She answered, casual. I asked her, "Did Dad move? Someone else is living in the house." She hesitated, then said, "Yeah, we sold it. A while back. No warning. No heads up. Just gone." I asked her where Dad was living now. She gave me an address 2 miles away. Smaller house. Different part of town. Didn't even have a front yard, just a concrete slab and a chain-link fence. Looked like a rental. When I showed up, Dad was sitting in the garage, working on something that didn't need fixing. Typical. He didn't even seem surprised to see me. "Figured you'd show up," he said. "She finally told you." "Told me what?" "That we sold the place." He said it like he was talking about a used car. Like the house we'd lived in for 25 years didn't mean anything. I asked him why no one told me. He shrugged. "You weren't around." That was the full explanation. No apology. No details. Later that night, we had dinner. My sister, her husband, my dad, and me. Nobody mentioned the house. They talked about weather, her job, the usual surface stuff. Then, when we were clearing the table, her husband let it slip. "So you think the guy's gonna keep paying, or is that arrangement falling through too?" She shot him a look, like he'd said something he wasn't supposed to. Dad changed the subject. I didn't. "What arrangement?" I asked. They all went quiet. My sister said, "It's not a big deal." Which is exactly how you know it is. After that slip at the table, no one said much else. I waited to bring it up again. I figured maybe someone would come around on their own. But the next morning, nothing. Just small talk over coffee like I hadn't heard anything. So I asked, what did he mean by the arrangement? Dad looked up from the newspaper. "Nothing for you to worry about." That was his answer. I turned to my sister. She said, "We just had to make a deal when we sold the house. That's all. It's fine now." "Who's we?" She looked away. "Dad and me. No lawyer." She didn't answer that. It didn't make sense. My grandfather had owned that house free and clear for decades. He passed away, and the house should have gone to my dad, or split between us. That's how it was always talked about. Nothing fancy. No big inheritance. Just the house. Now it was gone. Sold. Quietly. And they were acting like I didn't need to know. So I went looking. First, I pulled the deed online. County property site. Took 5 minutes. The house had been sold about 11 months earlier, transferred from a trust I'd never heard of to a private buyer. A trust. That was the red flag. Because my grandfather didn't believe in trusts. He kept paper in drawers, not with attorneys. I copied the document. The trustee was listed as W. Holbrook. My dad's name is William Holbrook, but he never mentioned a trust. Not once. So I called someone who'd know. Our uncle. My dad's brother. The one who used to run the hardware store with him. He picked up on the second ring. "Is this about the house?" he asked right away. So now everyone knew but me. He didn't go into details. Just said, "Ask your dad about 2017. That's when it started." I asked, "What started?" He said, "The problem." Then he hung up. That afternoon, I drove past the old house again. The new owner was outside unloading groceries. I pulled over. Got out. Walked up the drive. "Hey, Sorry to bother you, I said. I used to live here. My family sold the place. The man nodded. Yeah, they mentioned that. They? I asked. He hesitated. Your dad and sister. They said they needed a quick close. Cash. No agents. That didn't track. My family never moved fast on anything. You mind if I ask what made you buy it? I said. He shrugged. It was part of a larger deal. A trade, technically. The house was collateral. Collateral. That was the second red flag. I asked him if he had any of the old documents. He said no, they were handled privately. But before I left, he said one more thing. By the way, your sister told me not to tell you anything. Said you didn't like being involved. I didn't even know what I was involved in yet. But now I knew who'd made sure of that. After talking to the buyer, I stopped calling it my house in my head. It was just property now. Swapped in some deal I wasn't supposed to know about. No real estate agent. No lawyer. No public listing. Just moved off the board quietly. Still, something about the way he spoke didn't sit right. Like he knew more but was holding the line. I decided to go back. The next morning, I waited until around 9 a.m., then knocked on his door. Brought coffee as an excuse. I figured a clean approach might get more than pressing him directly. He was polite. Let me in this time. The inside was changed, new paint, furniture, lighting, but certain things hadn't moved. There was a shelf still bolted into the dining room wall, built by my grandfather himself. No one ever took it down because it was part of the studs. It was still there. But what really caught my eye was in the hallway. On a small side table, an old wooden box. Oak, worn smooth. Carved initials on the side, HH my grandfather's. I'd last seen that box in his bedroom closet when we were cleaning up after the funeral. It wasn't supposed to be here. I asked, that his? The man looked at it. Came with the place. Thought it was part of the staging. It wasn't. I didn't say anything more. Just finished my coffee, thanked him, and left. Back in the car, I started thinking through timelines. My grandfather passed away in early 2021. The house was transferred 11 months ago, mid-2022. That meant someone else had possession of the property after his death but before the sale. It also meant the estate wasn't settled properly. I went to the courthouse. Took a number. Waited in line. Asked for probate records under my grandfather's name. The clerk checked. Then double-checked. There's no filing under that name, she said. Are you sure it was handled through this county? I was sure. He lived here for 40 years. Died in the same house. That's when it clicked. They never filed probate. Which meant any transfer of property would have required a legal workaround, like a trust. Except I knew for a fact my grandfather never set one up. He was old school. Safe deposit boxes and handshakes. Nothing more. Which left one possibility. Someone else set up the trust after he died. And only one person had access to all his documents after the funeral, my father. That night, I confronted him. I didn't yell. Didn't accuse. Just asked, did you create a trust after Granddad died? He said nothing. Not a word. But that pause. It was enough. After that silence from my dad, I didn't bother pushing. He wasn't going to admit anything. So I went around him. I called my grandfather's old lawyer. A guy named Palmer, retired now, living 2 towns over. I remembered him from the funeral. He and my grandfather had worked together for years, estate stuff, land boundaries, taxes. I told him who I was. He remembered immediately. Then I asked, did my grandfather leave a will? Palmer sighed. Yes, he did. I drafted it for him back in 2019. He signed it in my office. That stopped me cold. Was it filed? No, he said. I gave the original to your father after the funeral. I assumed he handled it. I didn't hear anything after that. So you don't know what happened to it? No idea. But I have a copy on file, if that helps. It did. He emailed it to me within the hour. The will named my father and uncle as co-executors. The house was to remain in the family. If neither son wanted it, it would pass to the grandchildren, split evenly. There was no mention of a trust. And definitely no mention of a sale. The will was real. It was legal. And someone buried it. I drove straight to the county clerk's office. Told them what I had. Asked again about any probate filings. Same answer, none on record. So now it was simple. The house was sold without going through probate. The original will was suppressed. And a fake trust was created to override the real inheritance. It was fraud. No question. But on paper, no one had challenged it. Which meant legally, it stood, for now. I didn't go back to my dad's place that night. I stayed at a motel off the highway. Cheap, quiet, no questions. Started going through the will line by line. Then I noticed a section I hadn't caught earlier. Under assets outside the primary residence, there was a short list. Mostly unimportant: a boat, some tools, an antique pistol. But then one entry stood out: parcel #448C, unimproved land, held jointly. It was land, 5 acres. I remembered it vaguely. Some family property near the East Ridge, undeveloped and forgotten. Last I heard, it was worthless scrub. But it was still listed as held jointly. I went back to the county land records and pulled the deed. The title showed 2 names, William Holbrook and E. Holbrook. That second name was mine. My middle name's Elias. I'd signed it that way a few times as a teenager. Apparently, at some point, they'd added me to the deed. No one ever told me. But that meant I was still part owner of something, the only thing they hadn't sold yet. That's probably why no one mentioned it. And that's probably why I wasn't supposed to come home. The parcel was barely worth looking at when I was a kid. Just a patch of dead grass and rocks out past the East Ridge, next to a dried-up creek. My grandfather used to dump scrap there. Said it kept taxes down. Now, it was the only thing still in my name. So I pulled the tax records. Turns out, it hadn't been dead space for years. In 2017, there was a sudden spike in the assessed value, something about rezoning for future development. I looked into that too. Apparently, the county had approved permits for a subdivision that never happened. That's when I found the loan. The land had been used as collateral for a development deal between a holding company, Denton Ridge LLC, and a regional bank based out of state. On paper, Denton Ridge had borrowed over $180,000, using the parcel as one of 2 guarantees. I dug deeper into Denton Ridge. Registered 3 months before the loan was issued. Listed address: my family's old hardware store. Registered agent: me. My full name. Signed digitally. Filed through an online service I'd never used. I checked the digital signature against my old IDs. It matched. Because it was lifted straight from a scanned job application I filled out when I was 18, for the store. Someone had used my name, my ID, and my digital signature to register a company I never heard of. Then used that shell company to take out a loan against the family's land half owned by me. And when the development collapsed, the loan defaulted. The bank foreclosed on the other guarantee, the house. That's how it got sold. Not voluntarily. It was a settlement. They avoided court by selling the house fast and quiet, off-record, off-market, and without my knowledge. Now it made sense why there was no probate. Why the will vanished. Why no one mentioned the land. Because in legal terms, I was liable. The LLC had defaulted, and as its registered agent, I was now attached to the debt, even though I had no idea it existed. No court had come after me yet. But the paper trail was real. And if someone started looking, I'd be first in line to get buried in it. That night, I went back to the motel and printed every document I could find. Then I called my dad. He picked up. Said nothing. I told him what I knew. Told him I'd seen the filings. The loan. The false registration. All he said was, I did what I had to do. Then he hung up. After that call with my dad, I knew talking was done. So I stopped asking questions and started building files. The first thing I did was track down the incorporation records for Denton Ridge LLC. I already had the basics, my name as registered agent, the store's address, the date, but I wanted the source. The online filing service used was a cheap third-party registrar. I emailed their legal department, said I was the person listed and requested all IP logs and payment info associated with the original registration. They sent it within a day. The IP address used to submit the documents was traced to a local internet provider. The service plan, billed under my uncle's name. He was the one who used my ID. Not directly, but from his home, using the old job app I'd filled out 10 years earlier. I guess he thought it was safe. That I'd never come back to town. That I'd never bother checking the history on a piece of land we never talked about. But here I was. The payment for the incorporation filing was made with a prepaid debit card, bought locally at a pharmacy. I got the store's security footage from that date. It wasn't hard, the clerk remembered my uncle arguing about the activation process. I now had proof of two things. 1. The LLC was fake. 2. My family created it using stolen information from me. Next step, the bank. The loan wasn't local, which made it harder. But I knew someone who worked in compliance at a regional branch. We weren't friends, but I'd helped him pass his accounting class in college. I called in the favor. He pulled the loan docs. Sent me redacted versions. I couldn't see amounts, but I could see structure. It showed Denton Ridge LLC as borrower, 2 properties listed as collateral, and a co-signer. That name wasn't redacted. S. Holbrook, my sister. She'd signed as a financial participant and guarantor, meaning she backed the loan and helped secure the fast-track approval. I called her. No answer. So I drove to her house. Knocked. She opened the door, saw my face, and didn't say anything. I know what you signed, I said. She stepped outside and closed the door behind her. It was Dad's idea, she said. We didn't think you'd ever know. The land wasn't worth anything back then. It was just paperwork. He said he'd handle it. And the house? He didn't tell me it would go that far. I looked at her, didn't say a word. She added, if it went to court, your name would have been on everything. It was cleaner to settle. Clean for them. Not for me. I thought the worst was behind me. The fraud, the stolen signature, the bad loan, all of it laid out. But I still didn't understand why the new owner of the house kept showing up in the paperwork. Why he was so calm about everything. Then he called me. Not a text. Not a knock at the door. A direct call to my personal number. I think we should talk, he said. We met at a strip mall coffee shop. Midday. Public. Neutral ground. He wore the same expression he had the first time I saw him, relaxed, professional, unreadable. You've been digging, he said. Figured you would. I didn't deny it. He slid a manila folder across the table. Inside, printouts. Not bank statements. Not deeds. Maps. Zoning maps. Drainage reports. A proposed build plan. This is the parcel your name's on, he said. I've been trying to get full title for months. Your family's half was easy. Yours, not so much. I asked why he wanted it. He leaned back. Because the values changed. A development company wants that ridge. Utilities already run underneath it. If I can secure the final 50%, I flip it and walk away. How much? Mid-6 figures. That's when I realized this wasn't about the house. The house was leverage. So was the loan. They weren't the target. I was. You're in a good position, he said. You're the last thing standing between me and closing this. And no offense, but you're not equipped for court. Not with the mess your family left behind. I didn't respond. He kept going. Transfer your portion. Quietly. I'll take care of the paperwork. I'll even backdate it to make it look like a cleanup job. And if I don't? He smiled a little. Then the LLC you formed defaults in public court. Your name's on every page. The fraud gets messy. The debt sticks. Maybe nothing happens right away, or maybe it does. It was a polite threat. No raised voice. No push. Just pressure. You have until Friday, he said. Then he left. I sat there with the folder open, looking at the zoning map like it was a warning label. When I got back to the motel, I found a voicemail from my dad. I heard he reached out, he said. Don't make this worse than it is. Just sign the land over. It's done. They were all in on it. They didn't just use my name. They used me to delay the deal, until I could be forced to hand it over cheap. Friday came fast. I didn't respond to the buyer. Didn't answer my dad's voicemail. Didn't call my sister. I just sat on it, waiting to see what they'd do if I didn't move. They didn't wait. That afternoon, my dad showed up at the motel. No call. No warning. He walked into the lobby like he still had authority over something. Told the front desk I was his son. They pointed him to my door. He knocked twice. I opened it. You've made your point, he said. But now it's time to stop. He sat down like he was doing me a favor. I know you're angry, he started. I'm not angry, I said. I'm reading contracts I never signed. He waved that off. Look, the house was already gone. We didn't know the land was going to become valuable. That wasn't part of the deal. Then what was the deal? He paused. Keep your name in place until the time was right. That was it. And sell behind my back. We didn't sell, he said. We stalled. You were the legal block. Without you, the buyer would have backed out. So you used me as a delay tactic? He didn't answer. You thought I'd never find out. Honestly, he said, we thought you wouldn't care. That was the most honest thing he'd said yet. I asked him, and if I don't sign it over now? He looked me dead in the eye. Then we go through court. And once that happens, it's all public. The LLC, the debt, your name on the registration. Doesn't matter how it got there, you'll be the one who looks like a fraud. That was the ultimatum. Either I played along, signed away the last piece, and disappeared, or they dragged me down with them. That night, I met with a local attorney, friend of a friend. I didn't tell him everything, just enough to get his take. He looked over the LLC filing, the fake trust docs, the land deed. Then he said something that stuck. You're not the problem here, he said. You're the paper. The liability. They built the structure. You just got stapled to it. I asked him if I had any move. He said, if you want to keep the land, build a case. Quietly. Let them think you're folding. Then hit them with everything at once. I nodded. Then I told him to draft a document. A clean refusal to transfer title. Send it, I said. And don't copy my family. He grinned. Now you're thinking like someone who owns something. The letter went out Monday. Formal, notarized, logged, my refusal to transfer or sell my share of the land. The buyer would get it first. My family second. I didn't hear anything that day. Or the next. But I wasn't waiting. I was working. I went back to the courthouse, pulled every document tied to the parcel, the trust, the LLC. Built a timeline. Identified every signature. Matched them against real ones I'd used years earlier. Then I got copies of the trust documents used to transfer the house. The ones that skipped probate. I didn't need to be a lawyer to see it, the signatures didn't match. Not just mine. My grandfather's too. They'd forged his name. I handed everything to my attorney. This is enough to start something, he said. I told him I didn't want to go public. I wanted one meeting, one leverage play, and for them to walk away with nothing. He nodded. Then we need to act like you're folding. That week, I sent a message to my sister. Let's talk. No lawyers. She took the bait. We met at the park, public, visible. She brought our dad. I acted calm. Let them think I was breaking. I'm not trying to ruin anyone, I said. I just want out. You can have the land. Just clear my name from the company and the trust. You handle cleanup. They both agreed instantly. No hesitation. Which told me everything I needed to know. They were afraid. Afraid I'd go through with it. Afraid I had more than I was letting on. That night, the buyer called. I heard you're ready to deal, he said. I am, I said. But the terms are mine. I offered him a simple deal, full exit, 0 interest, no claims, and a signed agreement that he would never contact me or anyone related to me again. No more pressure. No more threats. Just a clean cutoff. He asked what he got in return. I said, you get 50% of the land you already lost. Or you get court filings showing you bought foreclosed property tied to a fraud scheme. Your choice. There was a long pause. Then he said, send the draft. My lawyer prepared the documents. Release of claim. Confidentiality. Mutual severance. All tied up in one packet. They signed. All of them. By Friday, the land was mine again. Quiet, uncontested, clean title. The buyer vanished. My dad stopped calling. My sister deleted me from every contact list. And I didn't say a word. Not out of mercy, out of strategy. Because the moment you talk, people think they still have a way in. After the papers were signed, I stayed in town another 2 weeks. No announcements. No confrontations. Just paperwork. I refiled the land deed under my full legal name. Transferred the mailing address to a P.O. box out of state. Set up a small holding company to manage it, real, registered, under my control. My lawyer handled the cleanup filings. Cleared my name from the old LLC. Flagged the forged documents as part of a private settlement. No press. No court case. Just sealed results. That's how it ends, usually. Not with a scene. With documents. The land sits empty now. Still zoned. Still valuable. But I haven't done anything with it. Might sell it. Might let it sit another 10 years. Doesn't matter. It's not about the land. It's about what it cost to get it back. The house is still owned by the buyer, but he hasn't been seen around. Probably flipped it and moved on. I haven't checked. Don't plan to. My family hasn't contacted me since. I didn't block them. I just stopped answering. No number change. No dramatic goodbye. Just distance. Sometimes that's louder. I kept one thing from all of this, my grandfather's will. The copy Palmer gave me. It's in a folder in my bag, along with the maps, deeds, emails, and notarized statements. Not because I want to revisit it. Just to remind myself how easily people will use your name when you're not paying attention. I live a couple states away now. Work remote. Cash mostly. Nothing fancy. Quiet is expensive, but once you have it, you don't let anyone lease space inside it again. Not family. Not buyers. Not anyone.